Welcome, everybody, to the Key Value Retail Technology Podcast. This is a brand new episode, and today I again have a great guest here in front of me, Dr. Mark Chrystal, who is the CEO of Profitmind and a true expert when it comes to AI in retail. Mark, welcome. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. It's really exciting to have you here. We've known each other for a little bit now and also worked together in some activities here and there. And yeah, I really hoped to have you on this podcast because one, you're a great you have great expertise when it comes to retail. You have many years experience in that industry that you can talk a little bit about in a second. And second of all, you also offer a great solution to the industry. So yeah, Mark, maybe you introduce yourself a little bit. Let us know how you got into retail, what you've done, in the last couple of decades, and then we jump right into the topic.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, well, I think like most people, I fell into retail. I'm not sure if many people, dream as kids of being retailers. I certainly didn't. I wanted to be a soccer player or a football player, but ended up in retail, ended up actually falling in love with the retail business, spent 25 years working for retailers. My educational background is in applied analytics and business. And so when I work for retailers, my primary responsibilities were always basically leveraging those skills to increase revenues and profits. And I was fortunate enough across that 25-year career to be given really broad responsibilities that led me to being a chief analytics officer, CIO, a chief supply chain officer, head of e-commerce, a head of marketing and loyalty, and then just about every role across planning, inventory, demand planning, pricing management. Basically, if there was analytics involved, I did it and absolutely loved it.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I obviously looked into your, let's say, experience on LinkedIn, and there's quite some interesting names on there. So mostly in the North American market, right? So what are the companies you've worked for in the past?
Yeah, so I started my career at Victoria's Secret. I also worked for Disney and Children's Place, worked for American Eagle Outfitters, David's Bridal, and Rue 21. So
Yeah.
all national or multinational players out of the US.
Pretty good, pretty good. Well, thank you for that. And yeah, so you've worked in the business and you've had many roles in the analytics area, and you also were involved into many planning, merchandising, roles in the past. But then you kind of decided to go, let's say, almost on the other side, right? Like, kind of, okay, let's get into consulting. Let's see if there's any kind of solution that you can create. So how did this happen?
Yeah, it was really born out of my last job as a retailer was as a CIO. And
Hmm.
I knew enough to be dangerous around coding and data science and building solutions myself. And I just found that the teams that I was supporting as a CIO, especially the business teams, did not have the software support that they needed to actually make like better, faster, more accurate decisions. And so I started trying to make solutions effectively on the side, and realized that just wasn't tenable. And I actually had probably a relatively unique skill set and understanding retail really deeply, but also technology and AI, and felt like I could step out of inline retail, actually build solutions for retailers specifically focused on those problems that I saw the team struggling with. And so that was really the genesis of, okay, I'm going to step out and I'm going to, yeah, cross the lines and go to the other side and actually build solutions for the retailers that I was working with before.
Absolutely makes sense. So now you're CEO of Profitmind. So yeah, can you tell the listeners and viewers a little bit more about Profitmind? So what's your mission and what you're trying to achieve with that company?
Yeah, I kind of go back a little bit to the genesis of the company itself, and I find this pretty amazing. So I talk to, I don't know, maybe 10 retailers a week at least, in my new role, and continue to validate this. But in 2024, every retailer I know of is still using Excel spreadsheets to make their key financial decisions, and it kind of boggles my mind. I mean, that was the case when I got into retail in the 90s, and it hasn't changed. And we know, all of us Excel is probably the best tool for business ever invented, but it's prone to error, it's time consuming, it requires a lot of resources, it lacks the ability to help you really make decisions at scale. But there are key reasons why businesses are using it, and it's really to do with the flexibility that you have. It's to do with the ability to bring in all these different diverse data sets into one place to be able to come up with some kind of rounded view of a problem. But I just felt like after 25 years of working like this and seeing my team struggle, that there was a better way, and there had to be a way using modern AI and technology to basically make faster, more accurate retail decisions. And so that's really the genesis of the company, and our entire mission is really to transform how retailers make decisions. And so that is the grounding for then what's become Profitmind. And as we worked with retailers, we spent over 2 years working with retailers, figuring out how could we bring AI into the retail space, actually help with this problem and making it a better, faster, more accurate decisions. And Profitmind is the response to that. And we've seen actually the decision making cycles become even harder for retailers because the teams are getting leaned out. And as we went through COVID, we saw a lot of cutbacks in the corporate teams. Those haven't really bounced back. So the retailers are trying to make quick decisions on using lots of data with very lean teams that can't possibly get to every item and all the opportunities that are on the table. And they need help, and they need a solution that's gonna help them find the opportunity that's there. And that's what Profitmind does. It's an AI business analyst, and basically what it does is it learns the objectives of the business, learns the products of the business, learns the marketplace of the business, and then provides real time, prioritized, and quantified insights on where the business can improve revenue, profit, and working capital. And then, just like
Mm-hmm.
an analyst that you would hire that would be a human, this AI analyst actually explains everything in language, can work in like 80 languages around the world, and you can actually ask questions and get comfortable with the recommendations and decide whether to proceed or not through a dialogue, just like you'd have with a human analyst, and then get down to the point of making decisions. But it's got the power of AI and the kind of the quantification and of opportunities that only an AI brings.
Yeah, wow. Okay, good. Well, that's a lot of input here there already. So, I mean, to kind of go back, I couldn't agree more. Most decisions are still based on Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. Absolutely. I mean, that's something that we as KIVALUE have been facing also since the beginning. We started working with companies, and um, we on an everyday basis, that's also what our mission is, to kind of make sure we provide better solutions. But then yeah, we also said that the team's getting leaner, which really makes it more difficult to make decisions. But then I also think, like, on the other side, I think you mentioned it in some of the words, and I think that's a major factor. Not only the teams are getting leaner, but the availability of data is increasing significantly, right? And where a company usually only looked at their internal data in the past, like at their revenue, their inventory, their margins, their sales data, their cash desk data, and stuff like that. Now, and that's where the solution Profitmind also comes in. There's so much data from the outside, from competitors, trends, all of that, that is suddenly available through technology. And here it's almost impossible, or it is impossible, to actually use all those information points make decisions, right?
That,
And
that,
yeah, and that's where profit mining comes in. You say it's a AI analyst. So the first thing that comes to my mind is, AI is obviously a topic that has arrived in the retail world, and everybody talks about it. Everybody wants to do it. Some do it. Some do it successfully. Others don't do it that successfully yet. But I think how I understand it, one big difference with Profitmind is that it has a more holistic view on the data than other solutions that maybe look for an answer to one specific question, right? So you say you look at a whole bunch of data that you gather, and then the AI analyst suggests what you should do in order to optimize revenue, margin, and working capital. That's my
that's right.
understanding. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
So the first thing that Profitmind actually takes in, which I think is a bit unique as well, is we actually take in the objectives of the business, and we take it in
Hmm.
just like if you were hiring a human analyst to your team, you would tell them what's the objectives of the business, how are we trying to position in the market, how are we trying to gain market share, how are we trying to generate revenue and profits, how are we trying to manage our inventory levels, all those types of things. You actually tell Profitmind those same things in language. So we could take a text document as an example,
Hmm.
as an input, and then Profitmind goes out and starts collecting relevant data. So it will go out to all the competitors that the retailer has, and it will do it digitally, but it will capture their assortment, their prices, their availability in real time. And then it will start looking at the business's internal data, the sales that, down to a SKU level, the inventory down to a SKU level. But it can aggregate that up to regions and up through the hierarchy, and then starts looking for opportunities in the business across all that diverse data, looking at the assortment, the inventory, the prices, the marketplace,
Hmm.
the business objectives, and weighs all of those to then start providing relevant recommendations. And it filters through it all, and actually prioritizes it for the business. So in the business team logs in on a Monday morning, they've come in and Profitmind's already looked at what's happening with the competition, already looking at what happened with the business last week, and is said, okay, like here in priority order are the actions you can take to go and grow the business, and here's the priority that it would recommend you take them in.
Okay. So two questions come to my mind. So the first one, whenever you talk about competitive data, one of the main challenges is that to actually being able to kind of map your products versus the competitive data, right? The competition. Um, can be easy, if you talk about, I don't know, for example, DIY or consumer goods. Like, it can be more tricky when you talk about fashion because obviously then it's more difficult to compare, this shirt to a competitor's shirt. So, how do you approach that challenge?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, and one of the first problems we had to solve, because what we realized building Profit Mind was that a differentiator was going to be the ability to go and collect this competitive data and to be able to match item to item across assortments and across the competition. And we actually went out and partnered with existing web scraping companies and found they were not good at it. They're okay if
Hmm.
it's like got a UPC number or an EAN number,
Yeah.
but otherwise they're not great at it. And so for apparel retailers in the fashion space, there really wasn't a solution as an example. And then for private label products, it was a real problem. So we as an AI company started ground up and actually built this capability. And what we now have is what we think is the best solution in the space for doing this type of competitive matching. And the best way to think about it is it looks at products like a consumer looks at them. So it will look at the image and it will compare the images. It can even compare the color and how close the colors are of the items. It looks at the price, the description. It looks at all the technical specifications of every product. And effectively, what it does is a distance model. So it figures out how close every item is to every other item in terms of how it looks and all of the technical specifications, and then matches based on how close the matches are across all of those those elements, and we found that we've now tested it and actually deployed it in every retail category, and it works. It works really, really well.
Yeah, exciting. I mean, if this, as you say, if that works, then it solves already a lot of problems that currently retailers have. So
Yeah,
exciting to hear that.
yeah. One of, oh, sorry, I was going to say
Yep.
one of the cool things that we built into that capability is actually a feedback loop. So
Hmm.
when we bring back those competitive matches, the customer or the retailer can actually tell us thumbs up or thumbs down if Profitmind did a good job finding that competitive match, and it actually learns from the feedback.
Oh yeah,
So the
cool.
next time it scans the web, it's actually learned for the feedback and becomes as good as the expert merchants at finding competitive products across the web
Okay.
after a couple of rounds of feedback.
So it's getting better and better, right?
That's
Pretty cool. And then the second question that came to my mind. So the you say there are suggestions. So the retailer comes in and there's already a suggestion what activities and what to do in order to improve revenue, margin, working capital, inventory, and stuff like that. So, can you give us a couple examples, like what the suggestion could look like? Like, has it to do with pricing? Does it have to do with assortment, uh, assortment strategy, or whatever? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, so there's a range of things it covers from pricing all the way through to assortment and even marketing insights and recommendations. So, for example, on the pricing side, if you are a retailer that just wants to be on par with your competition from a price perspective, and you're going to compete with them on other elements, Profitmind will not only alert you when your prices are not aligned to your competition. So, for example, let's say you're priced 10% below your key competitors. It will identify that in real time. It will then go through and calculate, okay, if I change my price to be on par with my competition, what's the impact going to be in my sales, my profit, my unit sales, my weeks of supply. And if it finds that there's a positive outcome that makes sense against the business objectives, it will then put together a recommendation and insight that then it'll quantify what the impact is and then present that through the UI as an opportunity that it's found for the business to take. So that's a good example. Works the same way with a price decrease. If you're overpriced to competition, it will identify that and then quantify the impact of changing. It won't actually make recommendations that are harmful to the business. So it actually does the
Hmm.
quantification, it studies it, and then says, okay, is this good or not? Does it meet the business objectives? And then presents. Just like you'd hope, like a human analyst would do, would kind of filter through and not just present a bunch of kind of garbage recommendations. So
Oh yeah, makes
it does
sense.
all that type of filtering. It will look at the assortment and rate recommendations on where to expand the assortment or contract the assortment based on not only performance of the internal assortment and how customers are responding to choices, but because we've got visibility to the entire market, we can actually use as a data point how the retailer's assortment is positioned in the market, where the market's saturated. We have real-time white space analysis, so we can
Mm.
see where the market's most competitive, where it's open for expansion, assortment level by assortment level and price point by price point. And so Profitmind looks at that and says, okay, this category is underperforming, and it looks like it's because we've just got it's either too competitive or we're carrying too many products. And if we cut back, we could make more money. Vice versa, here's an area where we're performing well and we don't have a lot of competition. Maybe we can capitalize on that further. And then I mentioned marketing earlier. So one of the capabilities we have is also to bring in clickstream data and traffic data and
Hmm.
use that to actually identify opportunities and also correlate it against price changes and things like that. So there's a lot of debate inside retailers around, if I change my price, am I going to get paid for it? Are they even going to find it on my website? Are they going to find that I dropped my price?
Yeah.
Unless I go and pay a lot of money to Google to go and post it as an ad. And so we can kind of pull apart some of those things using clickstream data to figure out is it actually traffic that's the problem versus the price of the product, as an example.
Okay. And I guess those suggestions that come from Profitmind, some of them are probably more focused on, let's say, manual next steps, right? So when it comes to like white space analysis, okay, you need to, or you should expand into like another assortment. That means somebody needs to sit down, a team needs to sit down, they need to decide what kind of products to bring in, and so there's like a almost like a manual and a long-term process that needs to be done. But on the other side, price changes, I assume, can be automated, right? Automation probably plays also a big role there. So can you maybe tell me a little bit more about that? Like how much automation is in there? How much possibilities out there outside of the automation?
Yeah. So on the pricing side, in particular, the Profit Mind provides recommendations down at down at a SKU level, which you can modify at a SKU level. You can even just ask the analyst to make global changes, and it will do that on the fly. Um, and then once it gets comfortable with, once the user gets comfortable with the recommendations, you can then basically say, like, send it wherever it needs to be sent. So you can automate it. You basically approve it right in the application. You tell it when it's going to go live in the pricing systems, and again, that can feed automatically into the pricing systems, or it can export the file to a team who's going to put it in. And then actually on top of that, Profitmind then starts tracking whether the change actually is beneficial or not. So it predicts, let's say it predicted that we're going to deliver $1 million in incremental profit over the next month or so. That opportunity gets approved and executed. Profitmind then starts tracking: are we on track to deliver that $1 million? And every day, it's actually providing a report and an insight on, here's how we're doing against what I said was gonna happen, and actually here's how we're doing against the baseline, which is basically holding course. So did we make a better decision? Number one, and number two, how are we doing against what I predicted as well? And so it tracks all of that automatically, and lets you know if there are any problems with the action that we took.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, pretty exciting. But I would think that probably there are a couple prerequisites in order to get to the point, where the retail AI analyst is able to produce all those recommendations, right? So there needs to be the data available. I'm assuming, internally, and also the external data. And I guess also the strategy has to be clear, and the integration must be there. So maybe we can talk a little bit about what are the prerequisites for a potential retail organization to work with Profitmind and have all those great results and benefits that the solution provides, and and what's a good starting point? Because from my experience, you always start small, right, and then expand and move fast. But yeah, how do you work with customers, and what can they achieve, within a certain time frame?
Yeah, so it varies depending on appetite and willingness to jump in and use an AI solution like this. We have some that just jump straight into a full agreement, and they just want the capability across all of their entire business. And then there are others that want to step into it and do a more narrow proof of concept, and let's just take a category or two with a small subset of our competitors, and prove it out from there. Regardless, it's effectively the same work on our side, and from a data perspective, it's just adjusting the how deep and narrow the data is. And so what we do is that it's basically an 8-week process to get up and running on Profitmind. The first 4 weeks is really around mapping and modeling the business, especially price elasticities and things like that, using the retailer's data. So what we usually typically ask for is 2 years of sales and inventory and price data. We
Hmm.
don't need it at a transaction level. We really just need it at an item level, whether that's a SKU or whatever the business calls an item.
Yeah.
And normally we haven't found a business, big or small. We work with retailers that do $4 or $5 million a year, up to retailers that do hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue, and all of them have that data available in some form. And we don't ask them to do anything to map it to us. We just take it as they have it. We bring it in.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
then model it, map it to our systems, work with their teams to then just set up a regular feed of that data, either daily or weekly. And then in parallel, we get a list of their key competition, and we start going and collecting the data on the competition. And so by week 4, we stand up Profitmind for them, start making recommendations and insights. And what that usually looks like is price optimization up and running, finding opportunities, inventory opportunities, and some marketing opportunities if we've got the clickstream data as well. And then a few competitive opportunities. And then between week 4 and week 8, we bring in all the rest of the competitors. And so by week 8, we have a full view of the market and full capability of Profitmind. We have not found or we have found with every single retailer at this point that within a month of using the application, they have fully paid for the POC or for the annual subscription.
Oh,
It's pretty
really?
incredible in terms of the
That's a great ROI.
the ROI is through the
Yeah.
roof. And largely it's because we know this problem, and it's why we stated this. They're in Excel spreadsheets trying to find these opportunities, and it's just not possible to find them. And then you turn on an AI solution like this that can look at every product every day, look at the marketplace, model this all out. It finds just tens of millions of dollars, and it's pretty amazing to see the business teams as those results come through, and the impact that it can have on the business as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ROI within like weeks, that's amazing. Yeah. If that really is going to fly, then I guess you have a real gem for the industry here. That's for sure. And I mean, you've proven it with first customers, right? So, can you say who you're working with? Do you have any kind of
I I,
businesses you can
I
say?
probably can't, so
Okay, no worries.
I won't put any of them on the spot. But the results have been dramatic. I mean, we've double-digit increases in sales and profit, and unlocking millions of dollars in working capital that can be used to fund growth opportunities and expansion of the assortment. One of the really interesting things that we uncovered is that by optimizing price versus the competition, regardless of whether the retailer is a premium player or an everyday low price provider, it doesn't really matter. Getting the products in the right competitive range for the customer boosts the rankings in Google. So,
Mm,
Google's rankings of everything is based on relevance.
yeah,
And one of the relevance metrics is price. And the more relevant your price is to your customers that are searching, the more likely your products are to show up on page 1. And so we've actually found massive jumps in web traffic and store traffic simply by making the prices relevant.
that's
Uh,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah, and, and,
I
and
didn't know that. Yeah.
that alone leads to major boosts in revenue and in sales.
So
Uh,
you're saying that's without paying a single dollar on marketing or SEO,
that's right.
improvements or anything like that.
I even had a head of e-commerce who started using Profitmind, and was like, I can pull back on my marketing expenditure because all
Wow.
of a sudden my products are ranking on page 1, and I don't need to spend as much on my PLAs anymore.
Well, there you go. I mean, sounds amazing. So, yeah, if I would be like a retail organization and I hear this podcast and I want to get in touch with Profitmind in order to, have this wonderful ROI kick in very quickly. So, how would I do that?
Well, number one is you obviously can reach out to you, Christoph, and Key Value. Certainly come to profitmind.com. And then my email is mark@nettail.ai.
Perfect. And you're not only working with organizations in North America, right? So you're open to work with also, yeah, retailers globally. Is that
That's
true?
right. We already have customers on 3 continents, and
Hmm.
looking to add more continents to that list. So yes, we're global.
Perfect. Well, great. I mean, 30 minutes, have passed very quickly already. So, I mean, I'm really excited to hear about Profitmind, and also, I'm very excited how the ROI looks like and how quickly you guys can create a benefit for the retail organizations. I mean, there's so much AI out there, and what you guys created really differentiates from many other solutions that I also have seen. So yeah, I mean, I can only say I'm really interested to see where this goes, and how Profitmind will win new customers and develop during the next months and years. And I hopefully can participate a little bit in that with Key Value. We're always looking for great solutions, and we're always trying to connect retail organizations with great technology vendors. And I think you are definitely one of those. So yeah, Mark, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, to our audience, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Mark and hearing more about AI in retail and what you can actually do today in 2024. And yeah, don't forget to follow us on the different podcast channels and on YouTube. Uh, we will produce more episodes of the Retail Technology Podcasts very soon. Yeah, and we want you back. So thank you very much, Mark, and have a great day.
Yep. Thank you.